Good evening, everybody. I'd just like to welcome you all here to tonight's IES meeting, the Council IES meeting, the 9th of August 2022. I'll just start with the statement of acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge this land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region and that their culture and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So I'd like to welcome, and also like to welcome any Indigenous people here tonight and those that are watching. I've got a roll call, looks like everybody's here. And I'd just like to acknowledge Mr. Chris Hannaford, who's just started with Council as the Senior Strategic Planner. So welcome aboard, Chris, good to see you. Any apologies? I've got one apology from Mr. Henry Innett, who's quite ill today. And, Mr. Jim Berlonga, is that an apology? Okay. That's we might just leave that as a non-attendance at the moment. So any motions to grant leave of absence? No. And non-attendance, we will, put Councillor Berlonga down, and then if it comes, we'll just move it across. Yep, thank you. Now we've got public open forum. We've got two people that wish to speak tonight, Mr. Nick Pezzanati and Ms. Bev Gidman. So, Mr. Pezzanati, would you like to come to the dais? And you've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
I was a bit dismayed and very disappointed when I read this ARIS report because of the large number of misinformation or incorrect facts that happened to arise in this report. And if members want, I can go through those with you tonight, but if you don't want, you don't want. I don't understand why he chose the case studies that he chose. For example, when he was looking at cropping in the area, carrots, potatoes, celery and onions, to my knowledge, have never ever been grown in the Hillier Cuddler area. Likewise with mandarins and citrus, I think most people recognise that citrus needs good quality water, which obviously, if you're prepared to pay River Murray water, you can grow. But again, you're competing against the larger growers in the Riverland Sunraysia areas. My big concern is Council is pinning its hopes on people wanting recycled water so that it can justify maintaining the area as it is. And I am sure that most people in Council don't know everything about the recycled water, namely the costs. I've tried to outline this in the submission that I wrote. The average greenhouse grower, and I think that's probably what can actually physically make a go of things in the district on such a small acreage, would need between 20 and 30,000 kilolitres. Their contribution to the scheme is $2.90 a kilolitre. It's a one-up cost, and then they've got to contribute, if they hop onto the Barossa scheme, about 99 cents a kilolitre, but I understand that they're having trouble getting in at that price. It's likely to be over $1 a kilolitre. Now, if people can make money other than with greenhouse production, certainly you can't with open field production with those prices. The report barely referred to the quality of the water. The report didn't refer at all to the way the water is delivered. The report did not talk about what growers have to do if they take out that water in terms of infrastructure. It doesn't just come to your property. You turn on a tap and you've got mains water pressure. It's got to be stored. The report didn't say that it's winter water, so therefore you've got to pick up that water, store it over winter and use it over summer. The report didn't highlight that you've got 2 metres of potential evaporation that occurs over that period of time. So I could go on and on and on, but the basic thing I really want to mention to people is, and I'm not about having our property divided into into high density housing. That doesn't interest me at all. That's not why I'm here. But what does concern me is just because you've got 2 hectares or 4 hectares or 5 hectares, it doesn't mean that you want to be a horticulturist. It doesn't mean that you want to use the land for that purpose. So I'm not really sure, other than the fact that council appears to be trying to justify the use of that land in order that it can support its vision for a zone that basically acts as a barrier between the Playford area, if you like, and the Gawler area. And I don't know why that's the case, because all the housing that's going on around Gawler at the moment is high density housing on small blocks, which is precisely what I thought people wanted to avoid. Am I misreading the situation? I don't know. As I come into the township of Gawler via the main North Road, what do I see? High density housing. So why is it that the Cudler and Hillier area has been singled out just for this open space, rural zones, when it's no longer really profitable? I could go on, and I don't intend to, but I'd just like to say what has happened to agriculture in the area is pretty much the same as has happened throughout most rural areas. Growers have got to be able to produce amounts with very low margins and high volume and consistent volume to be able to subsist in the marketplace. Well, today at lunchtime, I just went through some old records that we have, and I'd just like to show you why it is so difficult to make a living from horticulture. Our first harvest was in 1985. We paid $30 an hour for freight. This year, we've just paid $280 an hour for a B-double to take our produce from our property. We used urea fertiliser in 1985, $392 a tonne. Currently, it's about $1,200 a tonne. Diesel, we paid 46.74 cents. Last week, I ordered 2,000 litres, $1.87. Water was 53 cents a kilolitre, $2.89. Electricity, night rate, 7.52 cents, 46.2 is what we're having to pay now. Day rates, 11.76, 29.7. I've got a fair bit more to say. Give me a minute more, please. Registration for our ute was $132, $652. Now, this is the one that you people might want to listen to. Council rates, we paid $490. This year, it was $3,489 plus add-ons. Minimum rate was $175. This year, it's $1,085. My return in 1985 was $5.10 a kilo. Last year, my return was $5.86. The average is the 10-year average is $6.10. So what is the point of what I'm saying? Our properties are too small. The cost and the likelihood of getting recycled water into the area, I think, is very slim. I don't know how the council proposes to fund it, but you can do your own sums. The cost of taking up recycled water at 20 to 30,000 kilolitres, that's a substantial impost, as well as all the infrastructure that has to happen. Last thing I'll say is the ARIS report did not obviously interview any person that does any irrigation in the zones that we're talking about. It didn't even know that there's recycled water in the district. It didn't even get the salinity levels correct, either of the recycled water or the underground water. It was a desktop study with no primary sources that were taken up, all secondary. And it was based on what I believe was a faulty report in the first place, and that was the Jensen reports, that they left a lot to be desired as well. So what I'm saying is, council, please listen to what people are saying. Don't think we are idiots. Don't think that we're inefficient. Don't think that we don't know what we're doing. People out there have made a conscious decision not to use that land for horticulture. They know that it's not much fun working out in the sun and not making any money. And for this report to say, yep, it's okay to do 2 hectares of micro winery of all things. Who has a micro winery of 2 hectares?
Ms. Gidman, you're next. Thank you.
I'm breaking down. We are in the situation too where, like Mr. Pisani said, we do not want to subdivide. We want to stay the way we are, because for the simple reason is that we crop for our horses. And we find it very difficult at different times with the change of the seasons to put the crops in at the right time and reap them at the right time. You spend thousands of dollars on seed and organic fertilizers, and then the rain comes down, and as soon as you start to reap your crop, that's when the rain comes. So you've lost thousands of dollars. So we basically need our property for our horses. But I've campaigned during the years since 2007 for the residents of Cuddler, Hillier, Evanston South and Evanston Gardens. It's not been anything for us at all. The water situation, as to Mr. Pisani said, is very expensive. We've got neighbours who grow flowers, and they've just leased a couple of acres off us just this season to try and see if they could grow some more. The biggest part of their problem was the water bill for 1 quarter was $3,000. And you take that out of your profits, and as Mr. Pisani said, with your fuel and everything else, it's not very viable for anybody to grow in the area, as well as any of these other products that you talk about, plus the vermin that comes and attacks all of your, even flowers when they're growing, vegetables. You get plant and next morning you go down, they're all little stumps. Everything's been eaten. And there's just nothing left. So it becomes a very big headache for anybody. And one of the big growers in the, or big glass houses in the area recently got an award, but he has spent thousands of dollars building his poly houses and going into years and years and years of hoping that his crops would be okay. He's only just worked it out. Now, this has been going on for 10 years. And so even poly houses have their problems. So the water coming from the new water scheme in the Barossa, I've rang the Barossa Council, and they have informed me that they are definitely not interested in bringing the new water scheme to Gawler. They're only bringing it to their area into Lyndoch, and what they've got is all allocated for. And if the Gawler Council decided that they wanted to bring that water from Lyndoch to Gawler, that would be at an expense by the Gawler Council. And then where's the council going to get the money from? Are they going to then put it on to the landowners? So the other water coming from Virginia Mr. Pisani is on the board and he knows that that water needs 50-50 of mains water because of the salinity in that water. So there are many other things that he's got all the figures for that you can tell. So anything that's grown has to be grown naturally, like a wheat farm or oats or something like that. As far as growing vegetables are concerned, it's out of the question. But thank you very much. Bye.
Yep, thank you, Ms. Gibbon. Now, any questions for either of those speakers from elected members? Yep.
Firstly, thank you for presenting tonight. It always is a big help for the chamber to hear from the people that these decisions actually affect. So we've got a recommendation as a part of tonight's agenda. Is that a recommendation that you support in principle? I know talking to Bev earlier, she does support that, but Nick, you were talking about the reports and everything that are tabled tonight, but the actual recommendation on moving forward. So we've just got a 6-point here, but we're pretty much just noting a lot of the capability assessments and the report that you outlined. But the real kicker here that I think is quite beneficial is the for us seeking advice from the Minister for Planning, Mr. Nick Champion MP, relative to progressing a code amendment for the Gawler Rural Zone. Yeah, no worries.
Sorry, do you want to go to the sorry, to the microphone? That way the people watching online can hear you as well.
Yeah,
yes. That way you can. Sorry, I should have pointed that out. Yep. Do you want to just repeat that, Nathan, just so the people that watching online can get the question and the answer?
Yeah, so the question, Nick, was around the decision report that's on the table tonight. Does it have the support of someone like yourself, Nick?
No, you turn your microphone off, then Mr. Pisani can talk. Yeah, there we go.
Green, here we go. You can, yeah, all bar point 6, because I didn't think the Jensen report was very very appropriate or very clever at all. So, you know, we've, as a community, we've got to go forward on this, but I just don't think that council in general have been well informed about the prospects of sustainable horticulture in the area.
Okay, any other questions for the two speakers? Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make one point. I didn't say that I didn't want any subdivision. What I very explicitly said was that I do not support high density subdivision.
Oh, you got a question, Mayor? No, that was just open forum. Okay, thank you. When we get to it. Okay, we're not there yet. What motion? We're not there yet. Yeah, right there. Thank you. That finishes the open forum. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any declarations of interests tonight? Oh, Jim, you've got a. Yep. When you put your microphone.
Over 7.1. And I'm staying in the meeting.
Right, yep. And what was your interest?
I own land up that way.
Okay, yep. And what's your interest?
Not sure what you mean, I own land there.
Yeah, perceived or actual?
Sorry, it's perceived.
Okay, yep. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right. Okay. Confirmation of minutes. So that's the meeting on the 14th of June. Would someone like to? Cody, you've moved that. Someone like Kelvin, you second that. Any discussion? All those in favour? All those against? Jim, you need to vote. You're against, are you? I'll do that again. All those in favour? Okay. All those against? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, business arising from the minutes. Now, we've got a whole cavalcade of information there. Any questions? Mayor Redman.
Just on page 5, around the Williston Cemetery Conservation and Management Plan, that motion was in 2016, which was 6 years ago. When's it coming back? That's a long time, in 6 years.
Through the chair, we'll be looking at that with our engineering services department and looking at bringing that back very, very soon and potentially in the new council setting. So I'd say November, December.
Any other questions? Actually, I've got, what? Yep, Paul, yep.
Clarify, was that December? Did you say, Jen? Okay, thanks.
I've got a couple of questions. The first one's on page 13. It's talking about the hard waste collection, and part 3, it says this is funded by the estimated savings from the 2021-22 standard weekly curbside waste collection disposal service. Could I just get some clarification on that, please?
Thank you. Through the chair, you recall that the motion was to increase the provision for hard waste service from the curbside waste service based on the final figures for 21-22 from normal, which we've now got. Can report that there was savings with both the curbside waste and the hard waste, such that the 40 grand transfer could be suitably accommodated within the curbside program, because the curbside program delivered a budget saving of over 120,000, and the hard waste service itself was a saving of 12,000.
So just to clarify, there was a the diversion rate has gone up basically from the diversion from the red to the green to the yellow. Is that what's happened?
Through the chair, I can't confirm in terms of the various tonnages, but I would suggest it's highly likely that is significantly attributable to the increased diversion rate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Thank you. My next question is on page 15. What was it about? Oh, this is about the dog park. I'm just wondering how the consultation is going with that.
Through the chair, so we're just doing the planning for that consultation.
Okay.
And we will hopefully be out late this month for the 3-week consultation period.
Okay, right, thank you. That's it, I think. Thank you, that's it for me. After all that, we're now up to, oh, sorry, Katie, I didn't see you there. There you go.
Yeah, so just on the Norma proposal for free FOGO bins, I was just curious if we have any information on what the uptake has been like.
Yep.
Through the chair, the uptake has been very, very good. We don't actually have numbers as yet, but according to Norma, it's been very well positively received by Gawler residents. So excellent up to this point.
Excellent. Okay, Nathan, you got a question? Yep.
Yeah, just through you, Chair, just on page 7 at the Aspire Estate, age appropriate. I'm just double checking we're still on track for the October delivery of that project, probably through to Wendy.
Through the chair, so we are just distributing the letters out to the local community on that one. 16-week lead time for play equipment at the moment, so late October, early November. A little bit, everything, we keep getting delays on when equipment's going to be delivered. So as soon as it's there, we've got it lined up to go in.
Excellent. Okay, any other questions? No, we'll move on to our first decision item. So this is 7.1, Rural Areas Land Capability Assessment, Public Consultation. Mayor, you'd like to?
I'd like to move the motion, and if I can speak to it,
Yep.
please.
Yep.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone that provided a submission. It's always useful to hear what the community have to say, both for and against. I think that provides for really strong local democracy. Just a point about point 6. Point 6 is in fact an explanatory statement. It doesn't mean at all that Jensen Report 2 will be used. It is actually saying that the Rural Areas Land Capability Assessment Report was triggered as a requirement of the then Minister, Stephen Knoll. Further to Council submitting a statement of intent in May 2018, seeking to undertake investigations to proceed with a then development plan amendment that would seek to implement part or all of the Jensen Report 2. So it's an explanatory statement. Doesn't guide or commit council to anything one way or another, just so you know, Nick. Okay. So I think this is a good way forward. There will be a special Infrastructure and Environmental Services Committee to hear community submissions, and I think that's important. And I know that there's plans to do that with the chair and staff. I think there's seeking advice from the Minister for Planning, the new Minister for Planning, etc. So I think it's a good way forward. And I look forward to the special Infrastructure and Environment Services Committee meeting where we will hear submissions. Thank you.
Actually, I think I've made a mistake here. Jim, you said you were going to declare a perceived conflict. I think this is where you need to do it. So it's recorded in the minutes. Is that right, Megan? Yes. So Jim, if you want to declare your perceived conflict, just so you need to do it when the item. I'm sorry, I apologise. I should have pointed it out to you, but yeah, it's just process. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Sorry.
I perceived, I lost for words.
Okay.
Yeah. I own land there and I've got a bit of an interest there, but it's only a perceived interest. And I'm staying in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. That's perfect. That's now in the minutes. Thank you. Now I'm looking for a seconder for that. Kelvin, I think you were the first up. Yep, want to speak?
Yeah, just briefly, obviously points 3 and points 5 in the recommendation are fairly important, which refer to the calling of the special meeting so that we can hear all the submissions. And point 5, confirms that the submissions will be taken into account when the document is finalised. So I think it's a good way to move forward, and yeah, happy to support it.
Yep. Any discussion? Di.
I'd like to speak about my uptake on Cuddler. Cuddler has been a contentious issue for 12 years that I'm aware of, probably longer than that. And as far as I can see, it's impossible to please everyone. If it's rezoned, those that don't want to subdivide are going to pay high rates without any benefit at all. And those who would like to subdivide will probably never be to the size that they want. A lot of elderly are asset rich and cash poor out there because their average block size is 5 hectares. And as far as I know, anything over 2 hectares is classified as an asset. So people that normally have an asset-free home out there, that's not necessarily the case. Whilst you may be able to use land for specialised crops there, I would say that 99% of the people living in this area don't have that knowledge. There is also a limited market for selling the land to specialised growers. It is probably frustrating for those residents to see prime farming land around Freeling, Springwood and soon Concordia being developed while they can't. But the other properties, although it is prime land out there, they are large parcels of land being picked up by developers for development, where Cuddler is actually owned by many people. So it's not big enough for a developer to pick up. Many Gawler residents, well, when I say normal, I don't mean that, the outside people from Cuddler, a lot of the residents, they don't actually like the look of Cuddler when they go past it, but at the same time, they don't want mass housing, all roofs and no trees like Manapara. At the same time, I'm sure they don't want to see it filled up with poly houses. In the past, I personally would like to have seen it done as 2-acre blocks and no hammerheads, or with decent frontage. But having said that, I personally have just recently sold a 1/2 acre block, and I know how much water and upkeep that was on 1/2 acre. So in hindsight, I think 2 acres, unless some of it is natural scrubland, which Cuddler isn't, would just end up looking unkept due to maintenance costs. And as I said, there is no easy answer.
Thank you, Di. Anybody else want to speak? Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Councillor Fraser has said, you know, this has been going on for so long, and listening to the speakers here tonight and the professional business person, the costs that are going up through the roof, we're hearing this all the time. The sad part about it is that this whole plan thing was done through a previous minister. We've now got a new minister in Nick Champion, and all of this information, plus the people that live in Cuddler, must work as close as they can direct to Nick Champion so that he understands what they've been going for. I remember the point when the pipeline that runs along the sides of the hills there was a lot of discussion about the point of tapping it in and running it down through one of the creeks into the middle of Coventry Road. And we were told as a council that couldn't be done. But the Clare Valley decided they wanted water in the Clare Valley and capped it in. And I've been and visited it, and they all said, no, this was, the SA Water would make that decision. It's not for the people that need the water to make that decision. It can be done, but nobody wants to talk about it. These are the sort of things our new planning minister needs to know if Cuddler people are going to move forward. I mean, you know, like, how many times do we have to hear these beautiful people coming in that are there and they've got a problem? We, as this council, must try to help more and more. We're not doing enough. The whole point about it is from September the 9th, this council won't be able to do a thing because there's going to be a new council elected in November. And that new council will take over from there and away we'll go again. I think we've got to look firmly about listening to what's been said, what's on record, and let's do something now because, you know, someone's got to make a decision. If it's got to be Nick Champion, the new planning minister, well, then okay. If it's got to be our staff, well, through Chris or whoever, let's make some type of direction so the Cuddler people can know where they're going. At the present moment, in the last 12 years, they've told us all these problems. We've not given them any advice and any help along that way. We've got to do something better than what we are now.
Thank you. Any other comments? Nick, Nathan? Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll start by sort of saying that I've sort of had the same theme when this item's discussed. I've come on to this chamber in 2018, and this problem has been going on for way before my time. So I've been spending a lot of time playing catch up with this issue and talking to some prominent members that I can see out in the chamber tonight, in the gallery tonight. But my main point that I've managed to unpack with this whole issue is the pause button. The pause button that's been pressed in this area. And it hasn't been beneficial to us, to the town as a whole, to the residents of the area. And I'm saddened to see it because, and I'm a little bit worried because sometimes the sentiment that I do hear in the chamber is just the sentiment around subdivision. It's one or it's nothing. You know, if we're going to subdivide, it's going to be high density living. It's going to be 300 square metre blocks. And we know full well that that's not the case. There are so many different levels of subdivision. If we think about it properly, if we zone properly, the example is used many times when we discuss this matter. And it's an example that I'll keep on using because Light on the other side of our border have used their lands to create a green belt, I call it, in Gawler Belt. And they've managed to activate the space. And when you choose to drive through that entrance and you look through there, or you drive through there, it's chalk and cheese with what's going on in Cudler. It's not a green belt. It's an area that's been pressed pause on. And it's an area that I look at the report that we got a different way than what Nick showed. I see it as telling us that it's not viable because what you need to do to make it viable is near on impossible. Yes, it's said it in an optimistic way, but if you actually, you know, I read through it and went, and even the presenter on the night made that point very clear. And regardless of any of that, the public consultation consistently does bring back the same sentiment that you've brought back tonight that we read in our attachments. I'm sorry that it's taken this long to get here. I do see this decision report as a good way forward, albeit, you know, those baby steps that I do notice, you know, being a part of local government now that frustrate me just as much, don't worry. But working through these points, you know, I'm really hoping that the full advantage is taken with the special council meeting where those concerns, that passion that we listened to tonight, that we read in those submissions are really communicated to this chamber and to the public, because the green belt idea, I think, is getting tipped over, in my honest opinion. And I think you're almost there, but the process is such, and this is following that process, albeit frustrating to do, but this is, I think, a good way forward to be able to capture all those concerns. And again, as the Mayor pointed out, it is important to listen to both sides, but yeah, with our attachments, you can see which way this is heading. So I thank you all again for taking the time to come out tonight and speaking and approaching us, and the conversations I've had at the chamber as well. So yeah, look, I'll be supporting this decision, and hopefully we can get this special council meeting, special environmental services meeting happening sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Nathan. Any other comments? Actually, Jack, do you want to maybe just indicate when that meeting may be, just so people are aware?
Again, once again, through the chair, we would like to have at least a couple of weeks to get invitations out to the residents and the people who wish to ask to speak. So we'd like to probably reconvene a special IES meeting in about 3 weeks' time, if that's possible.
About 3 weeks. We won't put that in the motion, but notionally, it's in about 3 weeks' time. Okay. Any other speakers? Mayor, would you like to? Okay. Okay. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Yep.
in the asset management plans, it mentions the Gawler Development Plan, July 2019, and every single one of the plans.
Right,
That doesn't exist anymore.
right.
We have a new Planning Act and we have a new code. So I'm not sure who read through the update of these plans, but they didn't pick up that we don't have a development plan anymore. That needs to be removed and it needs to be replaced with the PDI Act and the Design Code.
Right, okay. So this is for,
It's in the background section of each plan. If you go to page 548, you'll see it in the open space, but it's in every single one I've checked.
Yep.
And yeah, I think when it's brought up to these committees, we really need to get those strategic documents right.
right,
Yeah, there's no such thing as a development plan anymore.
mhm,
So that needs to be amended
okay,
in regard to that. Specifically in the open space asset management plan, there is, and I note that this will be coming up. We'll be doing some condition audits, but we will have a future annual update when hopefully we'll have the strategic playground strategy, which is happening this financial year. So
okay,
that will need to be added into the open space
right,
asset management plan.
right. So this is, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Any
Thank you.
other, no, that was something you brought up just for this, any other questions? Cody?
Just so, are we going to adopt these plans as amended? Okay, we'll have to add as amended to point 2.
Yep. Any other questions? I'll ask for questions before I ask for someone to move and second it. Nathan, you've got any questions? Question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Am I right to say we received one response for community consultation for all of this? I am, yep.
Right. Any other questions? Actually, I've got a couple of questions. The first one I've got, I note on page 44 of 1127, and it talks about getting assets from developers. I'm just wondering whether make a comment about the quality of the assets that may come over to us.
Through the chair. So we've got a whole heap of standard procedures for assessing assets before they are handed over at practical completion from developers. We go through a rigorous design review process as well. I think there are still some improvements that we need to make in that space. I feel confident there's been a lot of improvement even just in the time that I've been here. However, I do think that council needs to be careful of the assets that we're agreeing to take on, where their makeup is different to the other assets in our town, and it then makes our ongoing maintenance regime in particular more difficult and more costly. And it ends up leading to longer times for maintenance to be and repairs to be done in order to keep the consistent finishes in the newer developments. So that's something that I think we still need to improve on. But I do think we've made leaps and bounds just in the short time I've been here in this space.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose one issue I've got is footpaths in new developments don't seem to last. You know, we've told that they're cracking up early, et cetera, So how do we ensure that we actually get good footpaths, for example?
I think that's part of the learning that I'm seeing at the moment. And I do think we have got some issues in terms of longevity. And I think it is about us agreeing upfront what we're prepared to agree in the design phase. It has to be agreed in the design phase, and we can't be, otherwise we have to accept what we've agreed that the spec will be in the design phase at practical completion if it is to standard.
Yep. I've got another question. It's just with the open space assets. Could you give me an update on why we don't include trees as an asset? I mean, none of the green assets are recorded.
So through the chair, so trees as assets are a bit of a complicated one. So there's no doubt that there is an important social and environmental value to trees. However, the financial value of trees in terms of pure asset management is somewhat complex. So when you plant a tree, it actually appreciates in value. And then at the end of the tree's life, it is back to a zero value. Trying to build that in with thousands of trees into an asset management system for a council in a financial system is complicated. So the value of trees isn't necessarily in a financial asset base. Instead, we want to consider that in terms of the value of trees process that we're going to include in our tree management strategy. And that's then looking more at putting an economic value on the ecological and social value of a tree in terms of what happens if the tree needs to be removed or protected.
Just to clarify, because you can use the Burnley method or the hybrid Burnley method to give a financial value for a tree. So will one of those be used?
We're still trying to work out what method we're going to use for the valuation of trees, and that's something that we will come back with a report to council on. So that's an outstanding council action.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Horwood, you've got
Through the chair, in relation to valuation of trees, I would suspect, well, I'm certainly not aware of any council that values them from the financial perspective on the balance sheet, and I suspect there's reference to them being specifically excluded under our capitalisation policy.
okay. Right. Any other questions? No. Right. Okay. Would someone like to move? Ma'am, Redmond, you happy to move? And Jim, going to second it? Yep. Mayor, do you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Look, we need asset management plans. If you read the plans, it says that from a medium-term perspective, we can manage our assets, but from a long-term perspective, we need to do some more work, particularly around our long-term financial plan. So everything we do is, well, the majority of what we do is based around these up-to-date asset management plans. I am keen to see them go to the audit committee. Are they going to be going to the audit committee? Because normally they do.
Yep. Yes, they are.
They will?
Yep.
Okay. And that's in a couple of weeks, isn't it? Is that after the council meeting or before?
Yep. Paul, Mr. Horwood, you got a comment there? Mayor, if you want to, yep, there you go.
Thank you. Through the chair, just to be clear, these plans, as recall, did actually go to audit originally back in 2021, and then subsequently endorsed by council for the purposes of consultation. However, for the report for the audit committee meeting on the 30th of August, we'll be providing pretty much just an information report, update report relative to the further progress that have been made with these plans.
Yep, thank you. So do you want to speak to this? Yep, there you go. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Horwood. That clarifies that. It is important that the audit committee reviews these asset management plans. It does feed into the capacity of council to either renew or bring in new or accept new assets, renew new assets and existing assets. So we have quite a large asset balance sheet, which most councils do have, but we are required to maintain those assets. So I think that over the long term, there needs to be some work done with the long-term financial plan on these assets and on these management plans so that they align up. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Jim, do you want to speak? No, you don't want to speak. Anybody else want to speak on these plans? Oops. Oh, yeah, sorry. There you go.
Thank you. Through the chair, just to provide a bit of further clarification for the chamber, because recognise these are very important documents for council to consider. As we've noted in the report and under the Act, there does have to be an alignment between these plans and the long-term financial plan. But that's particularly relative to replacement and renewal of our existing assets. Hence why we have the asset renewal funding ratio policy position of 90 to 100%, which essentially means that there's the policy position from council to commit to doing the optimum investment in the replacement and renewal of our existing assets. However, relative to what I've continually deemed discretionary CapEx, which is the investment in new and upgraded assets, a lot of those assets in these plans are very aspirational, as are a lot of our long-term plans. But the council's desire to reduce debt over coming years means that the all else being equal, the reason that the path to achieve that reduction in debt does mean we have to be particularly mindful of the investment in new and upgraded assets over coming years. So that's why there is a variance between what's deemed to be, I guess, aspirational assets in these plans compared to the financial reality we have, that we clearly can't do everything we'd like to do. And as the Chamber's aware, each budget cycle, there's budget bids presented relative to new and upgraded assets, and consideration is then given to what can we financially afford to do. But again, Chair, I stress the fact that there has been the ongoing commitment in the Chamber to investing the appropriate funding in replacing and renewing our existing assets, which has been a key target of council, and that in achieving that, it means we're not building up what's called an incremental backlog of maintenance. And as hopefully most of the members are aware, that rate, the asset renewal funding ratio target of 90 to 100%, we've been able to consistently achieve, from memory, for about the last 5 to 6 years. Whereas prior to that, there was, I think the Mayor will recall, there was 1 year, 8-9 years ago, where it was as low as 20, in the low 20%. So it's been pleasing that we have had that ongoing achievement relative to our existing assets. But at the end of the day, there is a disparity between what we'd like to do and what we can financially afford to do.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Jim's seconded, but he's just stepped out for a second, so we've got to stop. Keep going. All right. Any other comments? Nick, sorry, Nathan, sorry. Close enough.
That's right. It's only been 4 years. No, look, the asset management plans, you know, if you read into them and you actually understand early intervention, what that can save you, you really understand how important these things are. It's good to keep on reviewing them, obviously. I'm heartened to hear Wendy speak of, you know, trying to figure out where some of the choke points are and really see where they can improve. And I guess a comment to that would be just, I mean, DIP are already sort of doing these things across schools and all this sort of stuff. So that the processes already do exist to ensure the consistency across, you know, state government infrastructure. And there are tests and balances, inspection test plans and everything that you call for your contractors to be doing. Footpaths was mentioned. A good check on that would be ensuring that your slump tests and your MPA are reached on the footpaths to be able to, you know, they're all things that I'm sure you know and are looking into, but yeah, there are checks and balances that definitely need to be done. Look, I'm happy to support the recommendation purely just because of the importance of asset management and the early intervention. But I just do want to make a comment on that one response. I mean, we got a consultant in to do a community consultation and you netted one. I mean, I'd be pretty disappointed in that, because we've paid for this service, and you know, if it was just to a matter of, oh, we need to go out for community consultation, so we'll do it, then we probably didn't need to go out to a consultant, because if this is what the consultant can do, well, I'm sure we could have done that in-house and saved ourselves the money. So that's my disappointed bit on this, and you know, I'm sorry that my frustration has to be put forward there, but for the sake of community consultation, for community consultation's sake, it just really gives me the irrits, to be honest. So yeah, that's my takeaway there. But look, I'm happy to yeah, accept the recommendation.
Thanks. Jim, you second this motion. Do you want to speak to the motion? Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Cody?
Yeah, I guess just following on about, in terms of community consultation and everything, I mean, this is I feel like this is a tough one to get community consultation on. Like a lot of people, if you tied them to a chair, you couldn't get them to fill out a stormwater management asset plan feedback. But, you know, yeah, then that sort of does go to, I don't know, do we need to hire someone for this kind of community consultation, but just something to consider in the future.
Any other discussion? Mayor, do you want to? Okay, I'll put that. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 7.3, Stormwater Management Plans Update. You happy to move the motion, Mayor? You want to speak to the motion? Di, you have this second, right? Yep, okay. Yep.
Another really important piece of work all surrounds stormwater management plan. This has been ticking around the place for quite some time. It's been a collaborative approach between a number of agencies and other councils. Stormwater management, you know, we are prone to flooding. If you look at some of the maps in our attachments, they're quite confronting depending on where you live. Having a plan allows us to go for external funding, particularly through the Stormwater Management Authority. Not that they've got a huge amount of money, mind you, but it is a process and it is a pathway to get much needed external funding to do some much needed works, which will be ongoing. So I think this is a good first start. Yes, and hopefully people support this. Thank you.
And Di, you want to second it? Do you want to speak? Okay. Anybody else? Actually, I've got some questions. Just looking at the map on page 37. Just want to clarify, that was the area that was investigated? I just want to, it doesn't seem to include the new development along at Rosewood. There's 4 new developments. And there is a drainage line from there back to the river. And in the consultation, in the attachments, it talks about consulting with people in the Gawler Belt region about a channel. So I just want some something around that. Thanks. Yeah. No. This is in the agenda. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the map there, but page 37. Yeah, so it didn't include the new development in Roseworthy, and also just a comment about the open channel going through Gawler Belt. Yeah.
Through the chair, I will have to get back to you on the new development. So figure 1 obviously does show the correct boundary. The Roseworthy development has come on late in the development of this plan. I think that's probably where the anomaly is.
Yeah.
The channel through Gawler Belt, so the consultation process undertaken in 2019 had some very strong feedback from local residents about that channel through Gawler Belt. The result of that is that the channel hasn't been recommended as part of the plan, and that's.
Okay. Yeah, just on that, but historically there is a flow of water through that area. You have to look at the vegetation there to see that there's a flow of water through there. So yeah, so that's not going to be.
It's not going to be pursued as part of this stormwater management plan.
Yeah.
So residents had high level concerns about, I guess, the formalised formalisation
Of the
that
channel,
channel.
okay.
Yes,
It'll stay informal then.
yes,
Yep,
it will
okay.
stay informal.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments? No? Mayor, do you want to, okay, I'll put that, all those in favour, adopt that, carried unanimously. Oh, it's whizzed through it, yep. What's next? Okay. 7.4 Clonley Skate Park. Now, Nathan, did you want to move that? Yep. And David, you want to second it? No? Yep. There we go.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, thank you, Wendy, for putting this together so quickly. It was really good to hear some of the historical events that took place when this was first developed. I know some of my colleagues were able to enlighten me when the motion was put back in April, but it's good to just see that timeline dotted out. And it was valuable hearing from those elected members previously, but just seeing it in this report is very handy. I guess, you know, moving forward, the consultation space and everything that we're going to now engage in, I think what works in favour is, you know, some other local government areas are doing these sorts of things already. You know, we're in 2022 now. Things may have changed or have changed since 2013. So just checking in to see what the sentiment is out there in the community now, given that other LGAs have done it and the world hasn't exploded, I think is a very good thing to look into. Plus the whole solar lights. I'm very interested to see and research that a bit more, because imagine if we did get something off the ground that saw this great town asset utilised for a little bit more during the seasons, with a product that we could start rolling out in other areas and have other assets better lit. You know, I think the potential is there. I know that the lights may be a sticking point, and I know there might be some apprehension around that, but that's why we owe it to the community to at least ask the question. I do note that I just wouldn't mind making sure that the consultation space is very, very clear, because I think it could alter some of the results when people say they don't want lights, which could translate to they don't want any work done at all. So I think we need to separate the shade, the water, the soap, you know, all those items, because again, the lights are probably going to be the big sticking point there. But yeah, look, I look forward to seeing what comes back. I like how the reports and picking up some of, well, actually paralleling some of the points that local skate activists and advocate and I think running in the elections, Sam Shetler, put forward, because he did speak with fact, and it is now backed up in this report. So yeah, look, I'm happy to move this as the first step forward into really unpacking it even further.
And David, you're happy to second it? You want to speak to it?
Yeah, I also think there needs to be some CCTV or something there. Tonight, I only go to this area Tuesdays most weeks from about 4:30 to about 5:30, sometimes 5:45. But yeah, tonight we had the police there again for about an hour. We had some kids trying to destroy the place. So the police were called, and they hung around, which was really good. So yeah, there is a lot of antisocial behaviour that goes on in that area. I think there really needs to be something that we acknowledge, that, you know, this is 4:30 in the afternoon on a Tuesday afternoon. Last Tuesday there was a heap of kids there. They weren't too bad, so no one called the police on them, but that, you know, the way that they were acting, you know, people were uncomfortable around them and things like that. But I think, you know, there is antisocial behaviour that does go on in this area. There's a lot of tagging. Last week, the buildings and the pergola and everything else, was about 50 or 60 tags put on graffiti right around the outside of that area. So there's been a lot of fresh graffiti put in. So yeah, it's something that I think we need to be very mindful of, and that was a concern when the skate park was set up, that the police wanted to actually have a spot that they could actually keep an eye on, because they knew that this was going to be a problem area for them. And yeah, I mean, it was great that the patrol could actually hang around today. So normal citizens could walk their dog and do things, which was really good. But I don't think the police will always be sitting there babysitting people in a park either. But I think it's really important that we do acknowledge that it needs to be safe for all users of the area. So it's really something that we're mindful of. And as I said, I'm only there on Tuesdays and then some Saturday mornings with parkrun, but I'm not there that often, but I certainly see a lot of graffiti and I see a lot of police patrols there. They may not always be arresting people or whatever, but they're certainly there chasing people for doing the wrong thing. So I think it's something that we do have to be mindful of and to make sure it is a safe place for all of our community to use is really important. But yeah, happy to second this, but just think that that needs to be in the back of the mind with any work that's done in that area is the safety of all users.
Thanks. Thank you. Diane, you want to speak next?
Yes, really sad to hear about the antisocial and the vandalism that goes on there. Vandalism, I think, in common has always been a problem, even before the skate park, unfortunately. I was on the original skate park committee, and we had a lot of problems with, well, we didn't have problems, we had a lot of objections from the people in Short Street that were concerned about the noise bothering them on the skate park, the constant boom, boom, boom on the skate park. We actually planted a lot of trees between the skate park and their property. It would be interesting to see whether, there can be some, I don't know whether you want to do that or not, in the consultation to have a question about the noise to see what happens, or whether you want to forget about it. But also lighting. I think if you're going to get any problems with lighting, it's going to be Short Street that are going to complain about that. But then that depends on how high the trees have grown in the process, because that is 10 years ago, I suppose, since the skate park was opened. So those trees could be a barrier now, a good barrier. And yeah, the vandalism, if it's happening at 4:30 and 5, it's certainly not dark then. So you can't say that the lighting's, going to stop that, because it's all still is light at that time. But yes, I'm happy to vote for this.
Thank you. Thanks, Diane. Mayor Redmond, Karen.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I was on the skate park committee as well, and the original plan was to put lights up, but when the appeal went to the ERD court, that stopped that. There is antisocial behaviour. I think that one of the stakeholders should be the police and also ambulance, so that we get a broad range of feedback around just their take on that. One of the conditions from the decision from the ERD court was CCTV. Do we have CCTV? We do have CCTV up there. Yeah, we do. I thought we did, because that was one of the conditions at the time, to put CCTV up. So whether we need more, David, I don't know. That might be something to consider as a result of this engagement. But yeah, look, I think it is important to go out to the community, hear their views. There has been a change of many more businesses are coming into that area now. So people are not actually living there, but certainly there were quite a number of vocal people in Blanche Street that complained around this proposal at the time. So I guess it'll be interesting to see what the community's views are currently. So yeah, I look forward to that.
Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, I just reiterate what Councillor Fraser says and Councillor Shanks. That area, well, I've been there a few times like David, Deputy Mayor. The most complaints I'm getting is not actually the park. is when they leave, rattling the fences, throwing bottles over into Blanche Street and a few other things like that. So the actual park is, most times there's not the complaint in the park other than in the actual graffiti and stuff, but it's actually when they leave. But like anything, why? 95% of the people do the right thing. So what annoys me is we have to take all these extra steps because of 5% of people who don't. Now I feel for the people who live there, but most of the people I've spoken to in the last week or so is not so much the park. Most of the people in Short Street now are used to the noise now. It's not a problem because most of it's finished by 5:36, and when the lights, well, I don't know, might be a difference, but their main problem is when they leave, going down the streets, they throw things, rattle the fence, do other things like that, which you're never going to stop anyway. So I think the consultation, what Councillor Shanks says, should be separated like lights, noise, entrances, exits, to see what the actual big beef's going to be. So to me, it's a great asset, but it has to be monitored and controlled. Whether we can do that all the time, from past experiences, my last life never happens, but we can have to try the best we can to keep it to a minimum.
Thank you. And, Cody?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support the motion. You know, as everyone's been saying, I think the lighting is the most controversial part, most likely. You know, well, it could be the soap, I don't know, but suspecting it's going to be the lighting. Look, it is, I mean, look, it is true that, you know, there can be incidents and stuff, but I don't think that's the main takeaway from our having a skate park. I just sort of want to not, I don't know, treat people as guilty until proven innocent, as sort of like, you know, oh, young people, you know, they're out and about, you know, they're up to something. When, look, you know, you get a few rowdy people, but you can say the same thing about, you know, having pubs in the main street and all these other social activities. Is it, you know, fosters antisocial behavior or whatever, in that there's lots of people around and they're rowdy, but I don't think there's any suggestion that we should shut down the pubs in Murray Street, you know, like, so yeah, I guess that's just my general thoughts. Is I think this is good. I understand, you know, potential concerns with the lighting, but don't want it to be all about treating it like it's a criminal den. You know, there's just a lot of people who are just out there exercising, playing sports. It's a social hub, which by definition, if there's lots of people in a social hub, some of the people are going to go around being rowdy or loud when they're leaving, or these kinds of things.
Thank you. Brian?
Mr. Chairman, Deputy Mayor David mentioned about the point that we should have security cameras down there. Well, we just get told there is security cameras. I think it's an elected member with the people that complain to me about the area, and the police, as Deputy David said, that they regularly are down there. And this is common because I've driven down around there every now and then and so forth. And it's amazing how many times I've seen the police there. But these security cameras are costing this council a fortune. We've never seen a report of what they cost. We've never seen a report that they've worked. I've just come back from my farm and I've got 10 up there, and I had a quick look at them tonight, and I'll tell you what, there's a couple of vehicles that I'll be checking out in the next few days. They were $45 each. Our cameras we're talking are probably in the vicinity of costing this council thousands of dollars a month. Now, if we've got cameras there, we are now paying a full-time graffiti cleanup artist in a full-time $50,000 vehicle running around with paints and cleaner and everything, the whole lot, which was all before done by volunteers. You know, I think we've got to be real about this. And I understand what Councillor Davies said, you know, but I'll tell you what, you don't see any graffiti on the pubs, do you? You know, and I mean, let's get honest about this. If there's graffitiing up the toilets and all that down there, or the facilities down there, we need to make sure we firmly are saying to the young people that are doing that, cut it out, or, you know, there will be serious problems. We're not being serious about it. And when was the last time this council got a report on what our security cameras have done in Gawler? None, never. I've never heard one in 4 years. So for the cost, I'd like to know how much they cost, to be honest with you, especially the ones in Pioneer Park.
Yep, okay, thank you. Anybody else that hasn't spoken yet? Okay, Nathan, do you want to finish round off? Round off the debate. There we go.
Yeah, just quickly. Firstly, good debate. Thank you very much. The report does highlight that if we are to do shelters and everything, we do need to make sure that we abide by the CCTV not being blocked and everything. I think that's clearly highlighted, so it is on the radar. I, like Councillor Little, get frustrated with the 5%ers ruining it for the other 95%, because I completely agree. The graffiti that Deputy Mayor pointed out, that, you know, and also the antisocial behaviour that happened at 4:30 in the afternoon, it doesn't change anything with the lights. And the reason why I'm so attracted to lights is because I see how effective they are when we have problems on our building sites. If we have a problem with vandalism or people pinching stuff, we light the sites up. And what that usually does, we light them up and we put cameras on, and overnight we're able to curb that theft of the expensive materials that we have there. Now, we've got construction fence, we've got everything. We can't, if people want to do it, they're going to do it. There's nothing that we can do to change that. The people that know better not to graffiti the pubs in town, we're not going to employ those methods. I can tell you that right now. So I think this is the right way forward. And I think if we already do have a security system there, there's opportunity to tap into that and only expand if we can give that feed directly to the police. However that works, I think we do need to be shown to be being as consistent as we can in this space. And again, I can't stress enough that we're not the first local government looking into this. There is a lot of success stories that, again, the report rightfully points out. We literally just have to pick up a template and see if it will work in our town. And to figure that out, we need to ask our ratepayers. We need to ask the people on Blanche and Shaw, which, to be honest, they probably don't have a sound problem because of the traffic that's going through there at the moment. They're dealing with that. So, yeah, I look forward to moving forward with this particular recommendation and see what comes back from it. And I'm humbled to hear that this was the thinking back in 2013 already. So it is good that we actually bringing that back. And also, as Councillor Fraser pointed out, you know, these established trees and everything that has happened in the space, and it all working the way that it has, may actually curb some of the 10-year-old thinking as well. And we might see this asset aligning with some of the other assets that other LGAs enjoy.
Okay, thank you. That closes the debate. I'll put this motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, good debate. What's next? No items listed for discussion, so that's okay. Items listed for discussion at a future meeting? Anything? No. Questions without notice? Brian, got one?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there's a banner going up across the street. There's only one thing that's missing. When is the Gawler show? There's no dates on that banner. What a waste of money.
Is that a statement or a question? It's a question. Okay. Someone like to answer that, or somebody? Yeah, go on if you want.
And I think they say they use the same banners every year. And I think they were going to put like a sticker on it with the date. So, but I haven't seen them, didn't notice them actually, to be honest. But
there's a space up the end of the banner where the date can go. Okay. And after last year, when I complained about it, right, and the art people said not a problem, but we were never asked to do it.
Okay.
You know, anybody driving down the street, what do? You glance up at it, you think, oh, maybe it's in a month's time. Maybe it's tomorrow. It's so easy to do.
Yeah. Ron, we'll take, Jack said we'll take that on notice and get back to you. Oh, no, good. Yes, yeah. Any other questions on that oh, that was questions without notice. Any questions without notice? Any others? No? Motions without notice? Right. Yeah, we'll have a little break before we go into confidential. Yeah, have a little break, 5 minutes. Yep. Then we'll come back and we'll deal with the confidential item. Yeah, sure. Okay. Want to get going again? Get going again? Okay, everybody, if we can just, we're having a great time having a chat, but we might just get back. We'll be here all night just chatting. Yep. Yep, we'll get back now. Let's have a look. Okay. Oh, see you, Chris. Yep. Okay, we got everyone got the confidential agenda with them. So, Mayor, you want to move into? Yep. If you just want to, sorry, do you want to start? I didn't have you on. Do you want to start again before we go? Yep. There you go.
Yep. I think it is appropriate to discuss this in confidence. It is information, the disclosure of which could reasonably be expected to confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposing to conduct business, or to prejudice the commercial position of the council. So there's a number of issues that gives us the right to go into and discuss this in confidence. So I put that forward and look for people's support.
So, Jim, you want to second that? Do you want to say anything? No. Any discussion? No, I'm just asking everybody else. Any other discussion? Okay, there's been no debate. I'll put that we go into confidence. Carried unanimously. Okay, we're now into confidence. We'll shut the doors and